What is going on, guys? How are you? Welcome back to the channel and to another video. Today we're having another shot out at building a watch from a DIY watch club, and it's not just any watch, it's a GMT. Now, for a little context, DIY Watch Club is a company that enables you to assemble a watch on your own from scratch. They literally provide everything, tools, dials, you name it, and they have detailed videos on how to make sure that you basically don't screw up the process. The prices vary depending on what watch you're looking to build and basically the number of customizations. All in all, the one we're building today is getting close to €400 or the equivalent of $400. You can find a link down below next to that like and subscribe button, those two buttons, to the website for more details. For the first part of the video, I won't go into too much detail regarding the building process, so feel free to skip to the full build, as I will be doing a bit of a review on the completed watch. I don't have the grace or the skill to make this, and besides, there are plenty of videos on that part already online, and also DIY Watch Club already show this in detail, and I can assure you they're doing a way better job than I am. As this is my second rodeo with DIY Watch Club and I'm already considered a veteran, well, self-proclaimed veteran, link to that video in the corner of the screen. They only sent me the components to put the watch together and not the tools, and obviously some extra finger cuffs because you can never have too many of those. And I almost forgot, a special hand tool for the GMT hand, because again, this is a GMT build. As for the build itself, I think if you've done this in the past and you have a steady hand, one of the two things that I don't have, you should have no issues putting this together. Again, all in all, the build took a little over an hour, and the most tricky part for me, and I'm sure this was the same for everyone that isn't a qualified professional watchmaker, was pressing the hands in. I found this part is particularly difficult because as you're moving from the GMT hand up, it progressively gets more and more challenging, with the second hand being an absolute nightmare, which happens to be the last one. Luckily enough, DIY supplied 2 sets of hands with each build in case you screw it up, because you either get too cocky or you're rushing it or whatever it is, but you're going to inevitably bend one of those 2 hands. Once the hands are in, it's pretty much smooth sailing and everything will come together nicely, and you do get a sense of accomplishment that you've actually built something with your own 2 hands. Now let's go through some of the dimensions and specs. We have a case diameter of 41 millimeters. We have a thickness of 15 millimeters, but we do have a domed sapphire crystal, which adds almost 2 full millimeters to the height. Have a lug width of 22 and a lug to lug of 47.5 on the case. But if you decide to go with the bracelet, it goes all the way up to 51, but the lugs do point downwards, so even if it looks big on the wrist, it wears actually pretty good despite its size, even on my magical 6.3 inch wrist. That being said, the watch does tend to wear a bit top heavy, especially with that case height, and if you add the bracelet also, which I would recommend getting, it does weigh 165 grams. Now I do recommend that bracelet because it offers a bit more balance physically and also visually. I mean, it increases the comfort level and it also looks better too. On the case, I feel that for the money, DIY Watch Club had to make sure that they do provide quality materials and actually decent finishing. So we have a 316L stainless steel construction and great brushed finishing, and you even get some chamfered edges, which I wasn't expecting for the price, in all fairness. And to some extent, the brushing pattern on the case matches the bracelet, and now I don't know if this is a coincidence or not, but I do like that. We also have a coin edge bezel with 120 clicks, and again, nothing cheap feeling. The bezel action is very, very nice, and it has little to no backplay. Would give it a 7.5 out of 10, which again, it's 10 is a lot. I mean, 7.5 out of 10 is a lot. I went for the Coke version since I'm a big fan of two-tone inserts. Again, ceramic insert with loomed markers. And last thing to touch on here is the crown, which is signed, screw down, perfect action. And I should have said this earlier, but this watch does have a 200 meter stated water resistance, which explains the thickness in a way, and not to mention the screw down see-through case back, which again also adds to the thickness. All in all, DIY, I feel that if you look at the case, they did the basics quite right. On the dial, I went for the white sandwich variant. I mean, I think most of the dials they provide are sandwich dials with a few exceptions, and they all have a similar pattern when it comes to the markers. It's kind of like a signature layout, I feel, and they all tend to kind of have the same kind of pattern going. And it works. Again, you can get whatever color you want, plenty of combinations to choose from if it doesn't suit you. What I would say here is that I was very, very impressed with the loom, honestly. I mean, you expect brands to skip on certain elements, and the loom is usually on the list, but not in this case. They actually went all the way, and it shines quite bright for the printed markers. So fair play to them. The movement powering this is the Seiko NH34. And in a way, this is kind of like the star of the show, the star of the build. And also, it outlines the fact that this is an accessible movement, and it became an instant hit as soon as it hit the shelves. This particular one, despite me handing it into the case, runs at plus 12 seconds per day. It's not great, but it's still within the stated tolerances. And also considering the fact that I'm not a professional and I have very basic knowledge on how to handle watch movements before putting it into a case, I still think it runs perfectly fine. Now let's move on. I didn't mention that you have the option to buy a separate bracelet for this watch, which I did recommend a few times along the way, and it suits the watch aesthetically, but the fitting in the case is not that great. First of all, it's an oyster style with screw pins to adjust, which are a treat to use. Solid links, solid end links, which with quick release spring bars, but we only have a press clasp, which is not actually a big deal. I don't particularly mind it. On the bracelet, my only gripe with this would be the amount of play where it joins the case. I think it's a bit more than I can get over. I think they use this on a multitude of case styles, and I don't know if this applies to all bracelets or just mine, but do bear in mind in case you decide to add this to the purchase. Let's draw the line, guys. So, what are my final conclusions here? I think the overall experience is well worth the price that what you're buying here. And what you're buying a process, and you're buying a bit of insight in the process. You're buying the experience overall. I like the fact that they set you up for success by providing everything just to make sure you get the most out of the experience, and also the reassurance that you're getting quality materials and that you're not being too timed just because you're not buying the product already assembled by professionals. So on that note, guys, I do like the idea, and I do like the fact that they already give you the models to some extent, and you can customize yourselves. So that was it, guys. That was my review / video on the assembly of a DIY Watch Club GMT. Again, links down below. Thank you very much, DIY Watch Club, for providing the components for this build. Click a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't so, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!